What's going on, baseball fans? Jeremy Laracuente here for the Baseball Banter Broadcast. And on this broadcast, we are going to be bantering about the state of the 2023 Minnesota Twins. Now, before I get into my breakdown of the franchise, head over to laracuenteledger.com, and we have a corresponding article up on this franchise and the state of it in 2023. You can use the link in the show notes below to take you to that article. Now, as we begin, we look at the major acquisitions. Now, when it comes to major acquisitions, there's two that we're going to focus on. One was really an acquisition, and that was Pablo Lopez. I think that when you look at Lopez, this is a very good move, a guy who's going to come into the front end of the rotation for the Minnesota Twins and really help anchor this pitching staff. I think that long term, this is going to be a guy who's really going to be able to help Minnesota in 2023, really be able to do a lot, especially for their postseason aspirations. Now, the second player that we're looking at is the re-acquisition, the re-signing of Carlos Correa. Carlos had an absolutely insane offseason. This was an absolute crazy saga, something we covered here on the Baseball Banter broadcast in depth. But there's an opportunity now for Carlos to really go out and prove his worth, prove that the organizations that passed over on his medicals are in the wrong. And I think that he's going to have a very big season and really put himself on the map, put on a show in 2023, and really be able to help the Twins try to push towards the postseason. Now, as we look at the significant injuries, Jorge Polanco and Carlos Correa. Both players right now are healthy. They are looking very good in spring training and in the WBC. I think that this is an opportunity for both of these players to really go into 2023 healthy and be able to help the Twins. The biggest thing for both of these guys is being able to stay on the field. When it comes to Correa, this ankle injury, this issue is really something that hindered him this offseason. But ultimately, he got back to the Minnesota Twins. Everything was fine in terms of how they view him. And this is going to be a guy who really is important to this squad. Both Polanco and Correa are going to be extremely important to the Twins' efforts to really try to get back to the postseason. Now, when it comes to the top prospect, a shortstop by the name of Brooks Lee is the number one featured player in that prospect list for the Minnesota Twins. When you look at this player, there are questions about whether or not he's going to be able to remain at shortstop. There are experts and evaluators that believe he can remain there because of his instinct and his very good hands. But many believe that a much quicker approach to the major leagues would happen if he moved to third base. This is a very good hitting prospect who has the ability to really mean something important to the Minnesota Twins. We don't know exactly how long Correa's ankle is going to really hold up. We know that Correa is signed to the Twins for the next several years, but there's an opportunity that they may be able to do some different things with Correa at this shortstop position. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Twins do with this top prospect now that they've signed Correa to a long-term deal. But I think when it comes to Brooks Lee himself, this is going to be a very good hitting prospect, and he could push his way up to the 2023 roster. Maybe not at the beginning, maybe towards the September call-up period, but there's going to be a lot to like, and Twins fans should really be excited about what they have in the future at shortstop. Now, when it comes to bold predictions, this is one of the boldest. I believe Joey Gallo is going to have a bounce-back season. Yes, the shifts are going away, but it just means that they're going away from the infielders. There's going to still be shifts, as we saw with the Boston Red Sox against the Minnesota Twins and against Joey Gallo specifically. But I think Gallo has a bounce-back season. For me, Gallo is going to be a player that is capable of hitting 35, 40 home runs in the season, playing stellar defense in the outfield. I think that for Minnesota, this is a guy who you're really taking a flyer on, but in a very low risk kind of way. I think that there's nowhere to go but up for Joey Gallo in 2023. He had such a terrible time in New York and in LA. Going to Minnesota, where it's going to be a lot less pressure on him, he's going to be able to go and just kind of play his game without really having to put too much pressure on himself. I think that there also is an opportunity that with the kind of adjustments that are now going to be made to the shifting rules, Gallo could actually have a little bit of an easier time making contact, being able to get on base a little bit more, and really relax his brain. To me, Gallo was truly in his head in such a big way in 2023 and 2022 that in the 2023 season, he's going to be able to get back to kind of just his regular approach, something that we saw him do very well with the Texas Rangers. And in that, I think Gallo has a very good season for the Twins. Now, when it comes to the divisional rankings prediction, this is a team that is, in my opinion, going to finish in second place. We have an article up on laracuenteledger.com and a video here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast that goes into more depth on why I believe that. But I think that for Minnesota, the team that they're chasing in the Cleveland Guardians is going to be a very difficult team. Now, that being said, the Guardians, the Twins, and the White Sox all easily are interchangeable, in my opinion, in this upcoming divisional battle of 2023. There is such a small window, a small margin between these three teams that any one injury could be the defining factor as to where they actually land by the season's end. I think that for Minnesota, the moves that they have made have really truly improved their team from where they were, but at the same time, there are still weaknesses and still holes on this squad. If they can get a bounce back season out of Joey Gallo, if they can have a healthy Carlos Correa all year, if they can have a healthy pitching staff, this could be a team that easily vaults into that number one spot in this division. But as presently constructed, with the questions and injury concerns, there's going to be a second place finish for the Twins. Now, as we grade out the pitching staff of this organization, it is a B-. This, to me, is an above average pitching staff. However, there are going to be serious questions about the health and stability of this roster and this pitching rotation. I think that there is going to be questions about what you're really going to be able to get out of some of the starters in the back end of the rotation, as well as what you're going to get out of some of the middle end of that bullpen. For Minnesota, I think that they have done a very good job by bringing in Pablo Lopez to really help kind of solidify the front end of this rotation. But there's going to be questions about what is truly going to be able to be had by the entire pitching staff. There is some players to like in that bullpen as well, but to me, there's going to still be a little bit of a need, that something that the Twins would maybe like to add more at the deadline to be able to really solidify themselves in the postseason hunt. But overall, an above average pitching staff. Now, as we grade out the offense for the Minnesota Twins, it is a B overall grade. Again, above average. I think that there are still spots and vacancies in this lineup, but overall, I think that there's an opportunity that this lineup could truly go out there and put on a very good offensive show. A healthy Byron Buxton is of paramount importance. Without Byron Buxton, the Minnesota Twins are going to find themselves falling in the divisional battle. I think that Buxton has to stay healthy. Now, whether that is maybe a change in his mentality and maybe not being so aggressive in the outfield, or maybe it's an organizational shift, a coaching staff shift in the way that they manage his workload and his innings. Whatever the case may be, keeping Byron Buxton healthy is going to be the biggest factor for the Minnesota Twins in their success. Likewise, Carlos Correa, keeping him healthy, maybe managing workload a little bit, is going to be of a very important nature to be able to keep these guys healthy and keep them in the battle. For me, the Twins are an organization that is right at the edge of being able to explode off and be a very strong contender, a postseason contender, possibly even making it to the World Series. But it requires a lot of things to go right. And as we know, throughout the course of the baseball season, that doesn't necessarily happen. But they can get the best and the healthiest out of their lineup, this could be a very, very good lineup. So for now, with the questions and the concerns, it is a B overall, but could go much higher. Now, when it comes to grading out the offseason, it is a B+ grade. Again, the major moves that were made by bringing in Pablo Lopez, bringing back Carlos Correa, are very solid moves for this Minnesota Twins team. I don't think that there was necessarily a whole lot that had to be done, but there was still room for improvement. And that's what the Twins did this offseason. I think that there is still going to be spots where they can improve come trading deadline. But for now, the moves that they have made kind of go under the radar for me. And yes, there are big names that are now attached to this. Obviously, Joey Gallo is a big question mark as to what he's really going to be able to do, what kind of player, which version are you getting. But being able to get a guy with a buy low like a Joey Gallo, where he could absolutely go off, hit 40, 45 home runs. This is a big time reward potential for this guy. There's also the opportunity for bringing in Pablo Lopez. Yes, you had to give up Luis Arraez. You had to give up the reigning AL batting average champion. But in order to do that, you brought in a real front end quality starter, somebody that you can put in that wild card game, that wild card series. You can put in the game 7 situation. That's the kind of pitcher that you brought in Pablo Lopez, something that is a very, very strong move. So I think for Minnesota, they may not have done a ton of moves this offseason, but the moves that they made, to me, are moves that are really going to solidify them as a postseason contender. Now, as we grade out the franchise as a whole, it is a B overall grade. This is an above average franchise for everything that I've already mentioned throughout the course of this video. I think that there's an opportunity that Minnesota could really get themselves into a real position of prominence in the postseason battle. There is an opportunity that they can have arguably the best tandem in Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton of all teams in Major League Baseball if they can remain healthy. Now, those questions about health are serious. They are real questions for this Minnesota Twins team. Byron Buxton has the opportunity and the ability, the talent, the skill set to be an MVP each and every single season. His skill set is unlike many, many others in Major League Baseball. But the ability to stay on the field is something that is real and something that Buxton has proven year after year he is unable to do. If 2023 is the year that Buxton goes out and is capable of staying on the field for 140, 145, maybe even 150 games, this is a player that, in my opinion, could easily win the American League Most Valuable Player. That's how talented this player can be. Carlos Correa is another one that has the ability to be in that Most Valuable Player conversation. He has that talent, has that potential. Health is the biggest key for this Minnesota Twins team. If they can prove that they are healthy, they have all the makings and all that's necessary to really go for a strong push towards the World Series. But again, the biggest question for this organization is health and whether or not they're going to be able to maintain their players on the field in an upright position. So I want to hear from you, Minnesota Twins fans. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings. What are you most concerned about with your team? What are you most excited for going into this 2023 season? Let me know those thoughts and those feelings down in the comment section below. Or you can find me over on Twitter at banter_baseball, where we can keep the conversation rolling. As always, if you want to find us on other platforms, you can do so on Instagram and TikTok at Baseball Banter Broadcast. You can also check out the corresponding article on laracuenteledger.com using the link in the show notes below, where we cover the state of the 2023 Minnesota Twins, as well as all of the other teams in Major League Baseball, as well as many other topics in the world of baseball and others genres altogether, with new articles daily. I also want to thank you for tuning in. If you want to show some more support for us here at the Baseball Banter Broadcast, you can head over to our merchandise shop, baseballbanterbroadcast.com. Again, links to that are in the show notes below. There's a ton of promo codes you can use running on the banner atop the site to save on some Banter merch. And it does a huge service as we continue to try to build out this fan base. So I want to thank you once again. If you're watching us here on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell for post notifications if you haven't already, as most of our audience is not yet subscribed to this channel. So if you're enjoying the content that you're seeing here on a daily basis from the Baseball Banter Broadcast, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on your favorite podcast listening platform, then I ask you to leave a 5-star rating and review for the same reason. We're trying to continue growing this baseball community, and by doing so, you help us continue to build our name and move up the algorithm to be able to bring this baseball content to more and more listening ears. So I want to thank you for tuning in. Keep it locked in, as on the next broadcast, we're going to banter about baseball. Peace.